led by Under-Secretary General Guy Rader, and composed of principals representing the entire UN system. The objective will be to present to Member States proposals in 3 areas. First, rapidly identifying efficiencies and improvements in the way we work. Second, thoroughly reviewing the implementation of all mandates given to us by Member States, which have significantly increased in recent years. And third, a strategic review of deeper, more structural changes and program realignment in the UN system. Under the leadership of the President of the General Assembly, I will consult closely and regularly with all Member States on the progress made, seeking guidance on the way forward, and present concrete decisions for discussion and decision-making when appropriate. My objective is to move as soon as possible in areas where I have the authority and to urge Member States to consider the many decisions that rest with them. And this goes far beyond the technical. Budgets at the United Nations are not just numbers on a balance sheet. They are a matter of life and death for millions around the world. We must ensure value for money while advancing shared values. The need is great and the goal is clear: an even stronger and more effective United Nations that delivers for people and is tuned to the 21st century. And I thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Secretary General, on Ukraine, Ukraine has agreed in principle to the US proposal for a 30-day ceasefire. What's your message to Russia at this time? And can we also get your reaction to the growing global trade war? Trade war.
First of all, in relation to the ceasefire, we, of course, will welcome a ceasefire in Ukraine. I mean, too many people have died. A ceasefire is indeed a positive thing. And we hope that it will materialize. And we hope that it will pave the way for peace, a just peace. And you know what are the parameters that we consider relevant for a just peace: the Charter, international law, and the resolutions of the General Assembly. This,
Tariffs, trade war.
I think we live in a global economy. Everything is interlinked. And obviously, one of the great advantages of having a situation of free trade is to create the conditions for all countries to benefit. When we enter into a trade war, I believe all will lose.
Maggie, sorry.
It's early. Secretary General, good morning. Is this UN 80 initiative a UN version of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency that we're seeing in Washington? And do you anticipate significant UN staff cuts?
First of all, nothing to do with that kind of initiative. We are talking about completely different processes, methodologies, and objectives. This is a continuation and an intensification of a work that we have always been doing. I'll give you just an example. We have been investing in Nairobi, creating the conditions for Nairobi to receive services that are now in more expensive locations. And UNICEF will be transferring soon some of the functions to Nairobi, and UNFPA will be essentially moving to Nairobi. And I can give you many other examples of things that are being done and correspond to this idea that we must be effective and cost-effective. Now, the recent cuts that were made in relation to humanitarian aid and development cooperation, and not only by the United States, there were other cuts by other countries, even if in a smaller dimension, naturally led to the need for agencies that deliver those services to reduce staff, to shrink their dimension, and to eliminate many activities. But again, this is not a problem for the United Nations. I mean, agencies are resilient, And so, when necessary, they adjust to the circumstances. And indeed, thousands of staff have been laid off by several agencies. So but the problem is not for the UN. UN is resilient. UN can adapt itself to the circumstances. The problem is for the people. I mean, if more people will die with HIV/AIDS, or with malaria, or with TB, if humanitarian aid to fragile communities will make their life even more difficult and will have dramatic consequences, not only from a life-saving perspective, but from the perspective of the most basic forms of well-being, that is something we cannot correct. So we can adapt the UN, consolidate the UN, make the UN more effective and more cost-effective. What we cannot is solve the problems of the people that we no longer are able to assist for lack of resources.
Secretary General, to quote you, the United Nations has faced a liquidity crisis because not all member states pay in full and many also do not pay on time. What is your message to these bad offenders against the United Nations? And you're welcome to name and shame a few.
And pay in time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.